Velkommen til Learn.tech, en læringsdugnad om teknologi og samfunn, med Silvija Ceres og venner.
Hello and welcome to a Learn Conversation. My name is Silvija Ceres and my guests today are Luca Crisciotti and Kenneth Vareide, both from DNV. Welcome.
Hello, Silvia.
Very good to have you both here. I have to admit to the audience that I know you from before. I'm on the board of DNV and you two are leading the two groups or projects that are among my very, very favorites, not just in DNV, but probably worldwide. And I'm really excited to tell the story about these to the world. So I'll just say a few words about the conversation we're about to have so people know what series they're listening to, and then we'll get started. This is one of 6 conversations that Learn is having with different digital and sustainable projects at a company in Norway called DNV. And it is a company that works with very advanced assurance solutions for many industries, including oil and gas, energy, shipping, and business in general, but also is going into many new areas such as health and food. And these conversations are a part of background reading material for a course on digitalization and sustainability that the Norwegian business school, NHH, is running during the autumn of 2021. So with that said, I would very much like to invite first Luca and then Kenneth to answer my usual first question, which is, who are you and what has made you so?
So, first of all, my name is Luca Crisciotti, as you said, Silvia. I'm the supply chain and product assurance CEO at DNV. I'm proudly Italian. And for this reason, I like a lot to cook. And my dream one day will be to open a restaurant just to, let's say, share with you, what I'm going to do maybe when I'm a little bit older.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's my passion. And I have to say that during the pandemic, unfortunately, we had to stay at home. But on the other side, the positive effect is that I had a little bit more time, to make experiments in the kitchen. But this said, also in the last 5 years, I invested a lot of my also personal time, if you want, to explore a different way to take advantage of all the digital technologies. And I hope today to give you really hints on, what I've done in the last years here at DNV.
I think, Luca, will dive into the topic of, digital assurance as a business model and why it is probably the most sexy model for the future, socially necessary business model for the future. So we'll get back to that. I see you also do photography and diving and tennis and all these things I didn't know about you. So very cool.
Yeah. Yes.
And Kenneth, who are you?
Well, yeah, I'm Kenneth. I'm Norwegian, and I can't hide that from my name and from my background. I grew up in the northern part of Norway, but I've been fortunate to join this company. I'm now serving as the CEO for Digital Solutions. But I've been through the company through my entire adult life, I have to say, since I graduated from NTNU as a naval architect back in '96. But it's given me the great opportunity to travel the world, get to know other people, to get to know other culture, and to get to know businesses around the world, which is I thoroughly enjoyed. And I have also had the opportunity to work in different industries as well. So that kind of shaped me, a lot of who I am. But of course, where I'm from and my roots has also shaped me. And me as a father of 2 children has also shaped me to the way who I am. And similar to Luca, I'm very passionate about food. So we don't have the same ingredients, the fresh ingredients that they have in Italy, but we make the best out of the potatoes we can grow here in Norway. So what I do then, so I'm all into bread, and I'm also into this new wave of home brewing beer.
Ah.
So Don't ask me any question about it because I'm going to go very lengthy on it if you have any questions.
I'll avoid the topic of bread and brew.
Yes.
But Kenneth, I have to add a little secret we two have, and that's basically you were my mentor in baseball.
Ah, yeah, that's true. Yes, we went to baseball camp game together in Houston, right? Yeah.
And you're trying to explain to me, why is so little happening on the field. I just still don't get the game. let's not go there.
No,
let's not go there. You're a naval architect as well. So you started with loving ships, and you've kind of ventured from shipping to oil, and then now you're into digital platforms.
That's
you want to say a little bit about your very kind of wavy career?
It's been and that's the thing, that why you stick around for 25 plus years in a company like this, because it gave you so many opportunities to travel the world, to get to know, as I said, different businesses. And I quickly, when I started in the company, I was in the maritime part, but I found the offshore part even more interesting, because it was all about really took engineering to the extreme. So I really enjoyed that. But I also saw that there were other risks that were coming into the business. So I also worked on these software embedded systems that is so crucial for both shipping and the offshore industry. So we did something very early on in DNV to try to tackle that type of risk. And then I also have the opportunity to work in oil and gas on digitalization. And even before digitalization became really a theme and a more on a hype, we had our first, we had a collaboration with Berkeley, with the University of California, Berkeley. And we sent out the first pioneers out there in 2007. I remember them coming back with a report saying, new thing is coming. It's big data. It's digitalization. The train is leaving the station. You guys need to be on it. That was the first message from the pioneer who went out there. And we are now 2007, 2008. So we've been on it for quite some time. And when this thing started to really roll, say back in 2014, 15, when the oil price started to take a dip in the oil and gas industry, we were already prepared and ready to really start to reap some of the benefits that digitalization has to offer.
I also want to ask Luca, so our dear Italian, working for a very Norwegian company, but at the same time one of the most international companies, not just in Norway, but in the world. Can you give us some perspective on how you see DNV, Norwegian and international?
So first of all, I spent now 20 years in DNV, and I've been really traveling the world, also living abroad for a long time, like in China, in Japan. And I was impressed from the very first day I joined this company about the way DNV has been able to build this let's call it Norwegian culture around the world. And this is something that has been, and it is still today, a strength for this company. And for what concerns myself, I think that I found, let's say, very easy to adjust to this kind of culture. It's a culture based on the possibility to speak up, to talk to anyone in the company about, whatever you think, something positive, sometimes something negative, but you have easy access to everyone. And I found this, let's say, quite different compared to what I used to at that time, the Italian business culture, if you want. Sometimes I missed a little bit the emotion, I have to say, in some dialogue, but I have to say that it has been really a pleasure to work, for a Norwegian company. And that's something that I share all the time also with friends, explaining, how good it is to have the possibility to, again, have this kind of conversation in a very safe environment. And then this is the thing that I love the most.
I am very impressed at how DNV, as it goes, or as it is international, with its both offices and markets in the US and basically all of the world, including also China, manages to bring some of the best parts, I think, of Norwegian corporate culture, which is exactly this lack of hierarchy and openness. And then as a South European fellow, almost neighbor of you, I will give you a comment after my 30 years in Norway. And I think Norwegians, they get just as angry as we do, but it takes a very long time. And when they get to that point, they are more angry than anyone else in the world. So don't make a Norwegian really angry. I think we have a valve in the south of Europe where we let it out, and we're done with it. And I think here they think about it for a long time, but then you really have to clean up. So both of you have very interesting areas of leadership in DNV. So I would like to invite you to help us understand what they are. And maybe we start with Kenneth this time. And Kenneth, I'd like you to talk a little bit about Veracity as well.
Okay, I will do. So just starting with digital solutions, which is probably one of the biggest and one of the oldest software houses in Norway. So we have roots back to all the way back to 1969, where we issued our first software product. It's called Sesam. It's still alive. It's still thriving. It's now finding its new market in the renewable sector, within particular offshore wind. So I think that is quite amazing how you've been able to adopt things. And I think that says something about us as a company. When we do things over a longer period of time. We do it thoroughly. And we do it with a long perspective and for the next generation in mind, and with a purpose. So we have 7 different product lines, ranging from pipeline to renewables to structures to ship and etc. So we're quite a diverse portfolio, and we're having operations from sales and delivery capacity in Japan, Korea, China, Singapore, Australia, to US and Canada. So we are very global as an organization. We are also working on performance and assurance solutions, and more towards the future. We are talking about assurance of digital assets, assuring about data and making data more available and more trusted, so the company can actually reap the benefit of what digitalization has to offer. I guess we're going to come back to that a little bit later, Silvija. And then we have, since 2017, 2018, launched Veracity as a data platform for over customers to generate additional value on top of data and information that they possess. And that's a marketplace also where you both have consumers and you have providers. And we facilitate this through a trusted and a secure platform.
So I think we need to translate some of these words.
Yeah.
And we won't even go into assurance of digital assets to begin with. What I want you to do is give us a couple of examples of these software products. So, what does, but make it simple so that I could explain it to my kids.
All right.
What is a software product that we are selling to Japan, and what is a software product that we are selling to the US?
Okay, so here's
why?
Yeah, so typically, like these days, there's a strong incentives for engineering companies to find out the best solution to create scalable offshore wind farms. And now they're going even further offshore, so you want to have them floating. That's a very complex engineering problem to solve.
Sorry, we have to translate again. Because you already used the word offshore once before, and for most people outside of Norway, it can easily mean just something far out in the sea.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
but what we are referring to is something else.
Yeah, you're correct. So I'll try to explain this and not jump too quick on deep water here. So today we have, and we know in Norway, it's quite controversial to develop these wind farms onshore, right? We do them on lands. We are destroying the nature. The local communities are sort of opposing against it, so it's not straightforward, and it has an impact on the nature for sure, with all the infrastructure that needs to be built. So there are also, of course, opportunity to develop these wind farms out at the sea, right? And if you can put it on the seabed, like if the water is shallow enough, you could put it on the seabed. That's an easier development. It will be fixed to the sea floor. And it's easier, more accessible to do maintenance of it and to make sure. But now, if you really want to develop large scale, we need to go further out on deeper water. And then you can't fix things to the sea floor. It has to float. And that becomes
to me, it sounds like an engineering nightmare, because these things are, I don't know, 100 meter across the propeller blades, and
Exactly.
And the wind and the waves are big enough from the start, and now you have even this drag from these propellers. So, you know, the problem is then to make this thing not just float, but stay in one place.
Imagine you're going to take the whole entire Eiffel Tower. You're going to put it out on water. It's that big, like it's that tall, and you're going to put it out on water, and you're going to make it float. And you're going to not make one Eiffel Tower. You're going to make hundreds of Eiffel Towers, and you're going to do that in a cost-efficient way that can compete with other solutions that you have, building wind farms on land, having solar farms, having other sources of energy. So you have to do that but you said it's a nightmare, it's an engineer dream. That's what engineer really dreams about, is to solve that complex issues. So what we are doing from our side is to provide them with the tools that enables them to design the blades, the rotor, the structure, and hold the floating and the mooring lines that you need to keep these things in place. This is a very complex engineering solution that our engineers and our customers love to solve. But we have to be able to do that in a large scale. And that's really where the industry is now trying to figure out how to go about it.
So I can understand the hardware problems here, you know, building these Eiffel Towers from something that doesn't rust and doesn't blow over and maybe doesn't make a domino effect on all the others next to it.
Exactly.
And I know that you've even been doing something very, very fancy related to the drag that these things create for each other, etc. But where's the software? So what's the software that you're creating then?
So the software is also, of course, you need to make this to actually be able to withstand these enormous forces you will have when you are so far out on open waters with waves, with wind, with current. So that you have to make sure that you have design it in a way that it will withstand the extreme forces, that it will withstand all the dynamic forces, and that also that it would not over time it will be able to maintain it. So it doesn't just last for a couple of years. It's something that should be designed for a much more longer period of time, normally 20 years or 30 years. You even see these type of assets being built for longer. So that's one thing you need to do. And then, of course, you need to configure the whole entire wind farm in such a way that you get the maximum effect out of the wind resources that is available in that. And that's where you have to do a lot of measurements. That's a lot where, again, engineering really gets their heads together to understand how you should configure the whole entire wind farm. And that's also where we have software products to do that. It's even called Wind Farmer, and it's addressing exactly this. And there's much more complex things we can talk about creating this, but that's basically what our software solutions are solving.
So if I now first simplify this one example and say you're making software that is helping people who engineer these things or architect these things design both one of these, but also the whole farm, make a plan that will be optimal, and then you have software that helps them watch out for these farms, maybe even predict production that then can be used to predict pricing. So in a way, you're working with a digital twin, if we're not getting very technical in the definition of this very complex thing called the wind farm.
Yes, that's correct. So it's all the way from the initial design phase through its operation and through its maintenance and through its upgrades, and making the right choices during the operational phase. And this will become super complex as you move further away from land, because you don't have that infrastructure in place. You just can send a guy out with a pickup truck and a wrench neck, and then you fix it. You need to plan much more thoroughly. So it's a different mode of operation that you would have if you were onshore.
So you monitor, and basically you have this health of the digital twin that you can observe, and you can use that to also change things on the real thing. And you do this for wind farms, but you do this for ships of different classes. You do this for energy markets. You do this for solar. You do this.
Yeah, we do it for
oil and
pipelines. Gas. Yeah, and we do it for oil assets. So we do it for pipeline, and we have done it for quite some time. We just haven't called it digital twin. But of course, with the connectivity that we've had in the past few years, that's the game changer. And I love what Jeff Bezos. There's maybe I'm going out there on tangent, but Jeff Bezos. There's a video of him back. I think it's 98, 99. It's before the big IT bubble crashed back then, and he sees internet as the infrastructure that was built when we had the electricity in the US. So he sees that it's a fantastic infrastructure it's been built, but all capacity we're using it for is to put a light bulb at the end of that infrastructure. Imagine what you can use this infrastructure for. And I think this is the type of infrastructure that different industries, with the connectivity, that everything becomes connected, still is trying to figure out what that actually means to them. So I think that's the big game changer. I know, but there's a few other things in terms of capacity of computers, etc., but that's the big thing.
I believe that it's the data, the computing capacity, and the networks together.
Yes.
And it amazes me actually how DNV combines industrial heritage and experience with this data richness that we have now. So my basically last question to you before we go to Luca no, actually I have two. I'm sorry. I have to ask you about veracity as well, but it's about timing, because the way that I see what we are doing in DNV is that we are, this is the perfect storm really now, where finally we can apply these software dreams that we've had, as you say, since 1967 or 9 to very real assets, very critical infrastructure in very many basic industries. And it has to do with this access to data, access to sensors, access to networks. And that's where we need a data platform. So exactly. A data platform is something people have heard, but again, it's hard to have a picture in their head. So what is a data platform?
Yeah, and of course, it could come in many shapes and forms, but the real essence of it is that you need to be able to access data that you can have trust in, right? If you don't, because what has happened now with the connectivity that you described, with the sensors, with the connectivity, you now having, let's say, assets are more emitting more data than ever before in large quantities. So you need to be able to figure out which data that you actually need and which data you need to have the best quality of, so you get the right quality of it. And we early on, I mean, if I go back to the days when we came off from Berkeley and we said, hey, there's something called big data. So I'm back in 2007, 2008. We had a group in the research that started to work on this topic. And we quickly figured out that you need really to think thoroughly about, as a company, and any company needs to do that, how they're going to go about to get the best use of this. And then you need to really think about the data quality and which of the data, because you can have, I mean, we have done projects on gas turbines, and you will have thousands of sensors. But in order to really find what is really important to drive whatever business performance you like, you may be down to a few handfuls of sensors that you need. And that's where the engineers and the subject expertise comes in. So based on, okay, you have all this data and the sensors available, but you still need to have the physics. You need to understand the physics and the mechanics of what you're doing. And then, of course, you need to connect it with what matters for the business in terms of operability, maintainability of your assets. And that's where it all comes together. So you need a data platform to service this, because there are no infrastructures there today to facilitate exactly that. And that's why Veracity was born out of that need. It actually came from the research program that we started way back then. And then we said, you know what? We need it, but the industry needs it. And if we need it, we can also help the industry with the infrastructure that we are also developing for our own purpose.
We have to go to our Italian, who has been waiting so incredibly patiently for his turn. I just want to make
it was very interesting.
No, the last comment. So to me, digitalization is very much about data, and it's if we continue saying that data is the new oil, and for you, Kenneth, who has been our Mr. Oil at some point, I think that digitalization is about building the next oil platform. And it's, what's the engine that's going to be using this data, and how are you going to collect it? How are you going to refine it? How are you going to distribute it? And when you're building a data platform, you're not just building that pipe for data or that lake for data. You're building an understanding with all the companies of what they want to do with the data. And that's what you've been trying to explain. We'll also come to the point of verifying the quality of data, which is something that maybe is nice to have a little bit outside of the few mega monopolies, digital mega monopolies on the two opposite parts of the world. And a nice role for perhaps a company like DNV and a very independent nation as well. But before we go there, we are on to Luca now. So Luca, I'd like you to try to explain digital assurance. And I'd like you to try to explain it through examples and relate it to sustainability. How would you do that?
Yeah. So at DNV, I used to say that we provide trust and confidence to the market. That's what we do every day. And I would like to use, again, a food product as an example to explain really what to do. So think about yourself or your parents buying a product like 20 years ago and going to the supermarket. And at that time, the choice was made for sure, based on price, but mainly based on the brand and the way that the brand was able to communicate few simple messages to the consumers. There was a lot of attention on packaging, for example. There was, let's say, a lot of effort in bringing local products onto, let's say, a more global scale. There was nothing about, for example, environmental footprint or sharing policies about the way that that product was produced, the attention to the employees and so on. Think about then the challenge for the companies at that time. And it was to build up a kind of one single marketing campaign targeting one single customer. That was the challenge at that time. Now, let's go to these days and let's think about yourself at the supermarket trying to buy the same product. And your choice today would not be based only on the price and less on the loyalty to that single brand. But most of the people, and there's a lot of, let's say, differences among the age, for example, are looking at so many different things. You would like to know, for example, the CO2 emission for that specific product, the water that has been used to produce that single product, or if the company is using renewable energy to produce that product. So there are so many things that you as a consumer today would like to know before to make your choice. Now think about the challenge for the companies today. They don't have to think just to one single marketing strategy and one single customer, but they have in front of them, if they want to maximize the sales, 10, 20 different customers, all of them looking at so many different things. And this is one of the main challenge today for I'm using now this food companies also for many other products, but let's stay to the food companies. And we are in between as a company, trying to build this trust between consumers and producers. And we have adjusted the way we do it compared to 20 years ago. 20 years ago, a simple certificate saying that that product was safe was enough. Today, this is not enough. And we have developed tools to make consumers accessing those important information for them in a very easy way. So today, when you go to the supermarket, you can scan with your phone a QR code that is on the packaging, and you can get access to verified information about that product. Again, the environmental footprint, the water consumption, the renewable energy, social policies, for example, so how the company is treating the employees and so on. And we do it thanks to the digital technologies. So connecting basically all the dots within all the possible technologies used, like IoTs for sensors, data. We use a lot of blockchain. I would like also to add something to your discussion about data. From my perspective, there's an element which is, of course, related to data, but it's extremely important for a company like us, and it's about transactions. The moment that you create a digital asset, a digital twin, the moment that you generate data, then these data are moved, from A to B to C and so on. And every time that you move this data from A to B to C, you create a need of assurance. And that's where a company like us is going to have, let's say, a huge opportunity going forward to create trust, between all these transactions. And that's something that,
When you talk about digital assurance, you are both talking about things like traceability. So I buy a bottle of wine or I buy a shirt and I want to know that it's been produced in an ecological or in a child-friendly way. And you can create documentation for that for me as a customer. But also, as you say now, there is a certification in a way of a model, of an algorithm, of a computation. For example, when an autonomous car is driving, I might want eventually to ask, well, are you sure that this car has an algorithm that it uses that follows the Norwegian traffic laws, but also the Norwegian traffic ethics? And this question will be very important when we allow more and more of this digitalization and digital twins that Kenneth was also talking about in the social and critical parts of our life. So, for example, what does digital assurance mean in health?
Yeah, so there's a lot of questions, or let's say things that you have touched. Before to go to health, if I'm allowed, I would like also to share with you an example, since you mentioned cars, and this is a project that we have with BYD. BYD is a Chinese car producer, one of the largest in the world. And some time ago, they came to us saying, well, we would like to make sure that whoever is buying this car is not only, let's say, doing something by the car in order reducing the CO2 emissions, but also we would like to incentivize the driver to use less the throttle, for example, which means then to recharge less often the batteries. We would like to educate our customers in driving the electric car in a good way. And then what we have done for them, and this is again a project up and running, when you get into the car, you input your ID and password, and then there is a small, let's say, machine which is recording your driving style, so basically how much you push the throttle. Through an algorithm, this is translated into, let's say, a score. And at the end of the day, when you get out of the car based on that score, you get some tokens, some cryptocurrency. And then you can use this cryptocurrency to buy, let's say, a liter of milk from a food shop, which has been produced by a different company, which is sharing the same high-level goal to reduce CO2 emissions. So this company is using only renewable energy, for example, to produce that liter of milk. And then we have created basically an ecosystem of companies that would like to achieve this goal to reduce CO2 emission, and all together are offering the possibility to the same customer to behave in a certain way, and they would like to recognize this behavior, giving to whoever is driving the car or is buying the milk, some small tokens, so that he can feel again also happy about what he did. The cost is not more than any loyalty program, so of course you don't get millionaire in doing that, but it's a way for you to be recognized also on what you're doing. And that's why, again, I mentioned transactions, because all these, let's say, behaviors, all these driving style or buying behavior have to be recorded, and you have to give them trust to the entire ecosystem that whoever is, let's say, behaving within that ecosystem is following the rules of the game. So that's one example. And moving to healthcare, also this is an interesting area. We have really several projects there, from medical device to hospitals. For what concerns the medical device, there's a huge need to make sure that you are able to track and trace all these devices, and then that you basically take also records about any potential fails or any kind of incidents. And then basically you produce data that then are analyzed and make available to all the others so that you can improve that device. This is something that is coming from the new European regulations. It's an area which is completely new, not let's say, in the way that you have to take track of this incident, but using digital tools to track them. Other projects in hospitals are related, for example, about making sure that some information are available in the right place at the right time. So think about when you are admitted, hopefully never, to an emergency room, and then when you are admitted to an emergency room, the doctors and nurses have to rely on a so-called crash cart. The crash cart is where all the medicines and tools have to be stored. And think about an hospital which is working on say 24 hours, 3 shifts, where there's a lot of patients that are admitted. Think about, a doctor or nurses that have just ended their shift, and then think about a patient being admitted, immediately after, a new medical team. They don't know if the crash cart have been refurbished, with all the needed tools that have been used in the previous 8 hours. How to make this possible without relying only on human being? So we have developed a project where, there are now sensors in the crash cart that are, let's say, making available the information to the doctors and to the nurses, or to, let's say, also people that have to refurbish this crash cart in real time. And all this information are uploaded into a blockchain so that they cannot be, let's say, changed. And this has, let's say, be seen as a huge benefit for the hospital. They have saved tons of money in doing that. And at the same time, they have had the possibility also to take advantage of all the data coming out from this activity to improve all the procedures on how to treat patients and so on. We have another project where there are sensors now that are placed in, for example, in the bathroom, where doctors have to wash quite often their hands. Washing hands for doctors in a hospital is a key activity. But this is something very difficult to be recorded. And up to yesterday, it was, just the doctor himself or herself that have to maybe fill in a template. So all these activities now are digitalized. We are providing assurance on top of, all of these, and the benefit for everyone is really the amount of data that have been produced that now are available to be analyzed. And this is something that I see as a, let's say, big revolution going forward.
So 2 ways to think about digital assurance that you talked about, Luca. One is, now we have all the sensors and all the data, and we can use them to verify, to prove that, to check that people are doing the things they should be doing, washing their hands. If we are encouraging good behavior by driving more energy and CO2 efficiently, etc. And then there is the other way of using digital assurance, where you could look at an algorithm that is running, the car or the hospital, and somehow testing it and saying that, yes, I'm pretty sure that this algorithm is going to be behaving the right way.
That's the most important thing. This is where, let's say, we're also spending a lot of time and effort. I think that it will be extremely important to, let me use an old term, which is certify. But you need to certify sensors that are producing data. You need to certify algorithms that are then taking decision on behalf of you. You need to certify smart contracts, for example, which is another extremely important thing. Today, there are sensors that are producing data, and based on these algorithms, there are consequences, depending on what kind of data, are produced. And you need to make sure that, these smart contracts are certified. Let me give you an example, another project with an insurance company. You can go on holiday and you can insure yourself against the bad weather. You book a holiday in a nice, let's say, sun place, and you don't want that heavy rain is ruining your holidays. So you go to an insurance company and say, okay, if there are 2 days of raining, I would like to get some compensation. And then what is happening is that now everything is automated. Basically, there is the insurance company, which is looking at the so-called oracles. It's not the IT company, but is a source of truth. So is relying on local weather sensors. These sensors are producing, let's say, the data about the raining in that specific day. And if this is happening or is above what you have agreed with the insurance, a smart contract is immediately giving you money. There's no human interaction. So everything depends on, again, a sensor and a smart contract. And if you don't certify, you don't make sure that the sensor and the smart contract or the algorithm are behaving according to the expectation, potentially this may be something, extremely, let's say, negative for you as individual or for the insurance company as well. So that's where, again, we're spending a lot of time.
The beauty of automation and digitalization is that they can scale things up incredibly. But of course, they can also, if there are errors in the data or errors in the algorithm, then they can scale that effect up very much. So we are so out of time and I so can't stop. So I'd like to spend the last 5 minutes basically trying to relate this to a sustainability topic, but a different one from the one we've talked about so far. So we talked about, wind farms and clean energy and the stability of oil platforms and safe ships, and all of that is sustainability, right? Related to nature, related to I talk about 3 colors of sustainability: green, which is ecological; red, that is social; and blue, that is economical. So all of those, we've seen how the projects of both Kenneth and Luca support. And we can find, but I would like to ask you, what is the most important side of sustainability for you? I think of sustainability as basically our healthy long-term strategy. And, why do you care about sustainability, and how do you work with digitalization to support that? And maybe we can start with Kenneth.
So when I think about sustainability, and I think I have to be honest with you, I have a very sort of personal wake-up moment. And I was in the middle of my career in oil and gas within the company when this happened. So I did realize, and maybe that's who shaped me. Being a father is a thing that shaped me. And I do realize that sustainability is all about the children and what we leave behind for them. So what I am doing in my career that will help them to be on a planet that is more sustainable. So that is the aspects I have. So when I bring that back into the everyday that I do, We saw what happened, and I don't think people really realize that with Evergreen, the ship that got stuck in the Suez Canal, how much dependent we are on shipping as a supply chain to get products to the markets. There's a lack of bicycles in Norway these days because of that single event. Can you imagine it, right? So of course, and the sustainability in that supply chain, if that was a country in itself, that will be on number 6 list of emitters in the world. So if I can go about and do something meaningful with digitalization, to of course, we have to look at alternative fuels, we have to do it a different way, but in a short term, medium and long term, what we can do as a company and how I can contribute with digitalization to help companies making smarter and better informed decisions when it comes to that. That's kind of my real take on it right now in terms of what we can do. And that entails the whole entire value chain, from the end consumer that Luca has been talking about, to the engineers that makes the vessels, to those who makes the selection in which vessels to put their cargo on. And all that needs to be worked on to make these things happen. There are so many different pieces in this clockwork to really get to the goals that we have. I hope that answers your question, Silvija.
Yeah, I like it. And I like it because I've heard, too many big companies use sustainability now almost as a marketing tool. It sounds good. And of course, we're doing it. And why not? But to me, it sounds like what you're saying is it's necessary. And if not me, then who? And so I think that's the way to move fast enough forward with those strengths that we have as individuals and as companies. What do you think, Luca?
No, I think I very much agree with what Kenneth said. If I may add just a couple of things. Sustainability has been used as a word for many, many years as kind of greenwashing thing, So a lot of companies were just using these as a kind of marketing tool or communication tool, but then there was very little behind, the actions that were, let's say, marketed. The good thing is that the young generation today, I think that they can teach to the old generation a lot. And if you look at the way that they are looking at things compared to us, for example, is much more natural, for them to look at things in a very different way. And this is, from my point of view, really a sign of hope that things are going to improve. The other positive thing is that, and this is also connected to what Kenneth said, today it's thanks to all these tools and apps that are available to everyone. It's much easier for everyone to understand if a company is using sustainability as a greenwashing tool, or if it's real what they are doing. And again, the young generation being more familiar with these tools and looking at, again, different kind of sources are now the ones that are telling, no, but this company is not doing really that thing, or it's much more important to do that, or this company is not doing what the other company is doing. So the combination of then sustainability and digitalization, I think that could give really a big boost and really big hope for the future.
I love your in simplest terms, telling the truth about the ESGs. Prove it and be concrete about what you're doing. And so I think this was very educational to me. And I wish we could have more time to talk about the human plus machine aspect of sustainability, and where DNV is moving the bar on that one as well. But I think we'll have to save that for the next conversation. Dear Luca and Kenneth, thank you so much for joining us here in inspirational and educational Learn Conversation.
Du har nå lyttet til en podcast fra Learn.tech, en læringsdugnad om teknologi og samfunn. Nå kan du også få et læringssertifikat for å lytte til denne podcasten på vårt online-universitet Learn.university.